Hello. The foremost question in the minds of those who are starting with their CAT prep now is the time sufficient? Am I late? We can give you lots of examples of those who have started their preparation even later in the month of July and have bagged the IIMC. Right? So there are enough examples to say that one can do it. At the same time, I can give you far more examples of those who have been preparing for one full year and preparing in full earnestness, not just for namesake, and have not made it to the IIMs. So, there are factors that are far more important than just the number of days remaining to CAT. One of the biggest factor is how strong are you academically in the subject matters that are tested. I'm sure you would be knowing the emphasis that these IIMs and other top B schools lay on your past academic performance in 10th, 12th or graduation. And they have their reasons to do so because they have seen that these are the set of students who possibly do well in their course later on, right? These are the set of students who have a natural ability towards the subject matter, or they have, when faced with a hurdle, they have overcome those hurdles, they have proved themselves, they have faced competitions, they have performed under pressure. So obviously there are advantages that someone who has a 90% plus in 10th and 12th has, right? And so these, if you are sort of belonging to this bracket, then I'm saying you are already used to performing well in tense situations or in pressure-like situations, right? So you might not really find that the time to be short, right? So does that mean the ones who have scored in their 80% or so on are have lesser chances? As long as you are in a respectable percentage bracket, let's say 80% plus and so on, I wouldn't say your chances are less. All I will say is, yes, you start from a back foot compared to those who have 90 plus, right? Now, among these set of students, there will be a small set who have never ever bothered about the marks that they score, but they still are very good with the subject matter. Let me give examples. Like, these are people who, if they have to study, let's say, averages, then most of the standard questions of average they can solve without really learning the topic by just framing equations and going ahead, right? They don't really need to sit and attend a class and to learn the basics of average. They already know it. Average is nothing but sum divided by n. That's it. Right? And they are bold and confident enough of handling the first set of 20-30 questions which are very basic. When things get a little tougher, like let's say weighted average or allegation, now they might not be aware of these topics, but then because of their comfort with the general maths concepts or so on, they are going to learn allegation or weighted average within 1 hour. 1.5 hours, and they learn everything about what is that about it. And not just learn, they can apply these to tougher situations also. Compare that with someone who will probably take a day, 2 days, 3 days to learn the same concepts. And having learned this, yet when faced with an exercise, it might just be doing half the number of questions, and in the other half of the questions, the student would require help. So when I put these two students in comparison, then obviously the one who has a natural or who is good, comfortable with the academic subject matter has a better chance. He is not going to feel the shortage of time as much as the second set of students who require far more time to study the same concepts, right? And the same is true even for verbal, right? So someone who struggles to frame a sentence, a single sentence correctly, grammatically correct. Someone who finds reading novels or articles to be a dreadful job, has never read, or someone having read scratches head and cannot really comprehend what the author is saying. So for all such students, the number of days that are left might be short, will definitely be short. But for someone who has never really knowingly learned English, okay, verbal, but then is very widely read, and is very swift in his reading, already has good reading speed, his comprehension levels are fast. I don't think so there's any shortage of time. Most of his preparation is already done, it just needs to be polished a little more. So the most important factor is your comfort level with the academic subjects. The second important factor is how much of a steady time is available to you in the remaining days. Let's say, assuming you are very good with the subject matter, you have a comfort with it. But if you don't have steady time available in the next 3 months, then forget 3 months, even 6 months is going to fall short. So you need to find steady time. How much time? For an average person, an absolute average, or you could even say a little below average, would need about 600 hours of studying just for learning the concepts. I'm not including the test taking and analysis, the mock part of it, right? Just studying the concepts would roughly take around 600 hours for the entire, all 3 sections put together. 500, 600, right? Now, considering that you're good with the subject, you might need as less as just 300 hours. Yes, you can easily reduce it to half, because think something that average or below average is starting to study. We have seen it in the same class of 2 hours. A person might learn whatever we have to teach in just 20-30 minutes flat, and someone might need the full 2 hours to study it, right? So yes, you have an inherent advantage, but you still need that 300 hours or 250 hours. And if I spread that across the 3 months, it would come down on an average around 3 hours a day, on an average. Yeah, you could have weekends, a little heavy weekdays, but then you need to find this and you need to average it out. You can't say you're not going to study for 5 days and suddenly on the weekends you're going to study for 20 hours. That's not going to help you. Let me be very clear with it. Is it okay? So the second factor is, do you have that time available with you? The other set of kids who do not have a comfort with the subject matter, what you can compensate this or you not being aware of the concepts, or you being a little not being strong in the subject matter, you can compensate this with the time that you put into study. So needless to say, you would have to sort of study twice what academically sound students will do. So it boils down to about 6 hours a day. So if you have that sort of time availability with you, you can compensate you not being good with the subject matter. Remember, we are not big fans of studying 8 hours, 10 hours, for the simple reason, if you study that much, your efficiency or your effectiveness or so on is definitely going to decrease. So 5 hours, 6 hours is at the highest end that you can really study in a day. And if you do that, then maybe this 3 months or so on will not seem to be as short as it is being seen right now, right? So how much of a time do you have? Lastly, the third factor that I would ask you to think is, remember, the competition is not just about IIMs. The competition is not just about a 99.8, 9 or so on. There are a good basket of almost 20 good B schools, right? And one should be open to competing or getting selected in any one of them at the outset, right? Based upon certain circumstances, you can be very choosy, but for an average person, when one is starting off in a journey, one should start off with being an open-minded and so on. And so there's a range of good B schools, and you should be open to most of them. And if I get that snap or symbiosis into picture, I get NMAT into picture, then the rigor or the depth that you need to study the topics, the width of topics that you need to study, all of them decrease. So what I'm saying is what you have to study becomes less. So then the time doesn't become as short. So let me again put this in. Yes, if you are aiming for a 99.7, 99.8, 99.9, then it is invariable you do not leave anything out of what you have to study, or whatever has a reasonable chance of being asked in an exam, you need to study all of it. But if I can reduce my expectations to 98, 99 percentile, then I can easily shave off 10%, 15% of the tougher end of the subject. I'll not do that, right? In fact, even having shaved off 20%, 30% of the subject matter, of the depth, you can still very comfortably land up in a 95 percentile, 96 percentile. And that is a level that is needed for, let's say, a SNAP or NMAT. So I hope you understand this. By just studying roughly, so you needed about 600 hours for an average student, right? You just do 70% of it, 420 hours. And you can prepare for a 96, 97, 98 percentile. And I don't think so that should be any considered to be less of an achievement. So it is wrong to start on a foot saying that I am going to aim only for a 99.8 and then start worrying, oh, but 3 months are less for it, then what do I do? When the situation is that I'm starting my preparation now, you need to make the best of the situation. So you need to say, let me go ahead and let me get to that 98 percentile first, and let me do it far more efficiently, that I can still manage that rest of the 1 percentile or so on in the last 1 month or so. So cutting short, mid-June, right, or July, August, September, mid-September, there is enough time for one to give a very good attempt at this particular year, provided one is decently comfortable with the subject matter, and if not, one has a good amount. Even if one is comfortable, one needs to have about 3 hours a day. If one is not very good at the subject matter, then you need to have at least 6 hours you should be able to put in a day. And secondly, you need to plan your preparation in a better way. You cannot really end up doing everything that is there on the net, every difficulty level that is present, each and every topic. You need to, just as in a regular exam that we would prepare, right? We know which things are more important, which things have more chances of coming. Oh, this topic, yes, it could be asked, but the chances of it being asked is hardly anything, and it's a very tough thing. So why waste a day preparing it? So you need to prepare in a far more methodical manner, and you will realize that the time is not as short. So let me end it on this note. There are enough people who have, managed to get great scores in far lesser time than what we have sitting today here, mid-June or June 20th around. And what else? And there's not much of a choice that you have. Be very decisive. Half of the battle we lose out between being undecisive, because a big common complaint that I hear from students is, I did take up the CAT last time, but I started preparing very late, so I was not very sure will I make it or no. Student, that is a pretty sad excuse. If you have started late or whatever, I wouldn't even say it's late, but if you started now, then just give it everything you have. No point wasting any more thoughts in whether I'll make it or I'll not make it. right? That is not the attitude with which go-getters do it. Just go-getters would just say, okay, these are the cards that are dealt to me, and then I make the best out of it, right? So happy learning.